Bill Blair, thanks. It's our final segment together as we do our special Big Five series here on cannabis legalization in Canada. Let's talk about health. People under the age of 18 cannot take part in the legal pot market. Won't they keep the black market alive? How concerned are you about that when one of the stated objectives is to deal with the health issues and try to reduce consumption rates among young people?
Yeah, I'm not naive and suggesting that young people will immediately stop seeking this drug, but we're going to make it a little bit more difficult for them. Right now, cannabis is easier to obtain in many of our communities than alcohol or even tobacco. And so with the new strict regulations, they won't be able to acquire it at any of the licensed retail outlets in the country. The drug traffickers that are still going to be around, we've retained all of the criminal sanctions, and so the police still have all the investigative authorities, all the charges, all the penalties that they have always had to deal with those individuals who would sell to kids.
But how do you deal with the 18-year-olds? Well, how do you deal with a 16-year-old who may want to experiment with this, can't get it legally? So what are you going to do to that 16-year-old if they're caught with illegal weed?
They're going to get a ticket. In every province and territory, we work very closely with the provinces and territories, and they've all written regulations that enforce an absolute prohibition on the purchase, possession, and consumption of cannabis. The police will have the ability to seize the drug, issue a ticket, administer a fine, take the kid home to the parents if that's appropriate, and enforce that prohibition. And so there are real consequences. Right now, the only choice that the police have if they got a 16-year-old with a joint is to charge them criminally or do nothing. And neither of those are particularly good outcomes. And so it's a far better system of regulation that the police will now have an appropriate and effective and proportionate tool, a ticket, a fine, seize the drug, without giving the kid a criminal record. That I think is one of the benefits of this new regulated regime.
You're going to make a lot of money from this with taxes and so on. So are the provinces. The money's going to be divided. But let me ask you what you're doing with the revenues, the federal revenues from this, to try and deal with some of the health concerns and education concerns, awareness concerns around legalization.
We've made a commitment that all of the revenue that will be generated from the excise tax for the federal government will be dedicated to research, public education, prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation. Our goals are to make a safer and healthier environment for our kids and for our communities, and that can be achieved through regulation, but it's also achieved through significant investment. We've got to improve the science around many aspects of this substance. The public education part is important so that kids will understand the real risks. Their parents and their teachers and their health professionals all need help, and we're going to make sure that that's provided.
There's also some evidence that that cannabis helps with depression, helps with anxiety, helps insomnia. Some people have said to me, ask Bill Blair why there's no campaign alerting people to the benefits of using cannabis.
We have had a medical regime in this country for almost 2 decades, but it has not been backed up with a lot of scientific research. And so in a regulated environment, you can actually start to do research. And our government is supporting some research projects. The licensed production industry is starting to put money into this. And we really need to have those clinical trials and longitudinal studies done. In a regulated environment, it's kind of tough to do, quite frankly, when it's a criminal offense to even possess or use this drug. But in a regulated environment, we can do that scientific research that'll inform the medical community. Doctors have been telling us we need more information in order to determine, what's the right therapeutic use of this drug, in what dose, and in what.
So you may one day, as a government, talk about the benefits of cannabis. After you get the research.
Well, again, I think that really is up to the medical community, but our job is to facilitate that research within the health community so that doctors can make informed decisions on how best to serve their patients.
Let's finish on, circle back to something we've talked about this week, and that's edible products. Finish on that. Some experts say they offer the safest means for using cannabis. So why the delay in getting regulations for those products? If some people make the case that there are health benefits to moving on edibles more quickly, why not move more quickly?
And there are health risks. And so we want to make sure that there are regulations in place to ensure, quite frankly, some people can't resist a tray full of brownies. And so single dosage, packaging, making sure it's properly labeled so people know its potency and its purity. There's also a lot of research that needs to go into making sure that Canadians understand that when you ingest cannabis through smoking, there's a certain effect in your metabolization that takes place. It's different when you ingest the drug. It takes longer to feel its effects, and they can last longer. That information has to be clearly available to Canadian consumers. We've already begun the rigorous work of ensuring a strict but effective, comprehensive regulatory system for edibles. We've made a commitment that 12 months from the date of implementation, so a year from now, those regulations will be in place. But it's important that we do this right.
All right, Bill Blair, been very generous with your time this week. Thanks for providing your input for this series here on CPAC. It's been good to speak with you.
Thank you, Peter.